phones I end up with at the end of the semester. It's so cool. All right. You should know the lobes of your brains and know what cortex is found in them. So where your taste is, where your visual area is, and what cortexes they're found in. The structures we went over, the brain and brainstem, like the hypothalamus, the brainstem, the thalamus. You should know what structures are there and what they do. Only the structures I told you about. You will see a cross-sectional picture of the spinal cord. You should be able to at least label the structures in that cross-sectional, that cross-section. Is that me? That was that. All right. You should know cerebrospinal fluid and its content. What hemisphere is dominant versus what's not. You should be able to know what ventricles connect to what other ventricles of the brain and by which conduit under which they connect. The 3 different types of fibers of the brain, right? You should know that. There were only a couple of the 12 cranial nerves I told you to know, right? 5, 6, and 7 were 3 of them. You should probably know where they all come from, where they start, or where their nuclei are, where they end. We talked briefly about a reflex arc, the different components of a reflex arc, the afferent, the efferent, the interneuron. I have a picture of that on your test. You should be able to label it. You should know that your meninges and how they are layered from external to internal and where they're at. I spent quite a bit of time on the brainstem and where control areas are in the brainstem. The different grooves and sulci in the brain and what they divide. Like this, the longitudinal fissure, the central sulcus. You should know what lobes are divided by them. There are 8 cranial nerves I asked you about. They are, you can ask for a better review than this, my God. Cranial nerve 1, 2, 3, 5, 7, 8, 10, 12. Those 8 cranial nerves you'll see in a matching section. You should know how to match them up to what questions I asked. We talked briefly about the EEG. I didn't ask you specifically about waves or different types of wave patterns, but you should know when you do and do not see an EEG. As far as the eye, you should know the different layers of the globe of the eye and what they house. In other words, the fibrous layer, the vascular layer, and the sensory layer. I said to you quite a few times, the lens refracts light into the retina, right? You should know the difference between refraction of light and reflection of light. And you ask at least one true false about that. You should know what chambers of the eye have aqueous humor versus vitreous humor. The picture, the cross-sectional picture of the ear, you're going to see that again. and you should be able to label it. With regards to the eye, I asked you about, I told you about the aqueous humor, the vitreous humor, the fovea centralis, where the nerve exits the eye, the blind spot, the macula, where the cones are most densely packed. You should know those things. Something I really didn't hit on a whole lot is the different visual problems like farsightedness and nearsightedness. Like hyperopia is farsightedness, myopia is nearsightedness. Just know the difference between the two. The picture of the eye with the layers folded over, that's cross-sectional picture, you will see on this test. You should be able to label it. You should know where you find taste buds and where you don't find taste buds. Remember I said most of your taste buds, almost all your taste buds in the fungiform papillae, remember? You should know what external or extrinsic eye muscles are used for what eye movements. The extrinsic eye muscles, the external eye muscles, are used for what movements? When I talked about the ossicles of the ears, you should know them in order. Malleus, incus, stapes, M-I-S. 86 questions on this test. A lot of matching. During your lecture today, I've already pretty much given you your 2 essay questions, haven't I? I mean, I talked to you about ear, sound waves entering the ear, and we talked about the different tubes from the eye and the ear. That's all I'm going to say, because I've already told you what to study for and what your essay question is going to be on. And that's a wrap. You have, this test will start tomorrow. You have tomorrow, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday to take the test. You have until Saturday. I will pick up the exam on Monday morning.